Hi, guys. Welcome to the first episode of the Black to Business podcast. My name is Monique T. Marshall, and I am the chief in charge here at blacktobusiness.com. And thank you for joining us today on our first podcast. And I have the lovely Miss Tonya Rapley of MyFab Finance. Welcome, Tonya.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So we're going to get into it. Tonya, first of all, just thank you for spreading the Black girl magic. Just thank you for being you. And you got to tell us, so first we want to start with who is Tonya? And also, because I know the resume of the creator of the Financially Prepared to Be Your Own Boss, as well as MyFab Finance. And you got a lot of new projects coming out. And if you don't know, the cover of Black Enterprise, kudos, yay.
Oh, thank you. That's almost 2 years ago now. It's crazy how fast time has flown.
Yes. And the newly web series with Citric TV. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll get in it. Let's get in it. So what I want to ask is, what was your first job out of college and how did you land it?
My first job out of college actually was at a call center. So I graduated from college in 2007. That was pretty much when America was realizing, the world really realized, something's not right with our finances and things are happening. So hiring wasn't really doing that well. I just moved back to North Carolina. At that time, I was in Texas. And so my network really was shot. So I didn't really have a lot of connections. So I ended up working at a call center for Windstream. And I stayed at that job. I started it in June and I left in October. And I ended up finding another job as what was my title? A purchasing analyst, or like an inventory analyst for a third-party company that serviced the Lowe's home improvement stores. So really my first real job that required skills. I managed inventory for a Elmer's glue and a hand care product at Lowe's stores across the country.
Wow.
It's a lot of responsibility early on, and I actually ended up getting fired from that job. I got fired from that job. I started it in October. I was fired by February. And actually, I got fired because we had corporate cell phones and laptops. And we had these work from home days. They would let us work from home 1 day a week. And they didn't want you to travel on your work from home days. And I ended up coming up to New York City and didn't tell them. And I had computer problems, so I had to call them. And they had my phone records, and it said that I was in New York. And they fired me off of that. I had just had a perfect review. Everything got a raise, but they fired me when they got those phone records.
Wow. So how did you bounce back?
So I ended up getting another job as a purchasing agent for the largest seafood vendor in the Southeast.
Wow.
So I was managing the shipment of sushi, ordering like rabbit and duck and salmon and everything, and shipping it across the Southeast and importing it from the North. And so I did that I got that job in March, and I held that job all the way through November, and then the company went bankrupt.
Wow.
The week of Thanksgiving, the company went bankrupt. I had already made my mind up that I was going to move to New York City. Mm-hmm. And so I went home, filed my unemployment, took my little coins out that I had in savings, and 4 weeks later, I moved to New York.
Wow.
The story since then.
So we love you in New York, by the way. Thank you for coming.
New York changed my life. New York was a place that I was able to grow and to develop into the independent personality that I am.
New York will make you.
Yeah.
So I know you have a degree in public administration and a master's in urban affairs. Mm-hmm. Now, can you talk about your career, the shift from that to finance, and how did, MyFab Finance come about?
Yeah, so from selling seafood and moving around seafood, I ended up I came to New York City, and I had a blog at that time called The Eargasm. That was going all right, but I never made any money off of it. I just did not have a profit model in place. And so I ended up going to work at the YWCA of Brooklyn. And that's where it all started to change. That's when I realized that I wanted to be a change agent. So in that work, I was managing programming for low-income women all throughout Brooklyn. Healthcare programming, civil rights and social justice programming, as well as financial education. And so there, I embarked on my own journey because it's like, wait, my finances are a wreck, and like I'm hosting these workshops. I need to absorb this information, and I set forth to improve my credit score to 750 by the time I turned 30. I was 28 at the time, and that was where my Fab Finance started. I started a blog. It was called My Fab FICO at the time. Started my blog, was going to be my accountability partner to stay on track with my finances. And it just grew. Like, My Fab Finance grew. At first, friends and family were sharing it. And then I got a name for itself, and so FICO sent me a cease and desist letter. It was like, change your name, and so I changed it to My Fab Finance, which actually, thank you FICO, because it has a better ring to it and it allows me to do other stuff. Yes. So I was on a trip. So that was 2013, and I was on a trip with my mother and sister June of that year in Paris and London, and I hated my 9-to-5 that I had at that time. And, well, I didn't hate the job that I did. I did not like my management. Mm-hmm. Like, the situation was just toxic. And so I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I want to be location independent. I want to travel the world and call my own hours and call my own shots. I'm going to do my blog full time. And from there, I just started going hard with my blog. And a year later, on the cover of Black Enterprise, and things just started to change and go up from there.
Wow. And so I know you, like, that's just amazing, because I think a lot of people, they want to do full-time entrepreneurship, but just taking that leap of faith, like you did, sometimes it seems so hard. It's so balancing, like, work life. How did you do work in your own business? Like, how did you transition into that once you made that decision?
It was very challenging. And at the job that I was at prior, so I didn't leave that YWCA job actually to do it. I ended up leaving that YWCA job because it was stressful. Like I said, it was a very toxic situation. So I ended up leaving and went to a job that was more flexible and more understanding. When I interviewed, I told them, this is what I do, this is what I'm interested in. I sent my website over as a sample of my work just so they knew. I got into a job that was really flexible because at the time, I was also in graduate school. So I was in graduate school working full-time and building my Fab Finance. And that job, God placed that job in my life because they were so understanding. If I needed to call out for certain things, if I needed to work from home for certain things, they were okay with it. There were times where I was blogging from my desk. Like, I'm not going to lie. There were times I was blogging from the desk. I never wrote a newsletter at the desk, but I definitely was blogging from my desk and getting it up and tweeting it out. But I took on a job that was less stressful and allowed me to devote more energy to my Fab Finance. In that job also I had a public speaking role, and so that helped me become more comfortable with speaking publicly and facilitating workshops and so forth. So it was just, I found something that aligned with what I wanted to do, essentially, because my last job before I left, I was educating homeowners throughout New York City on foreclosure prevention, which has a lot to do with money and under your finances. So I was able to align myself with a position that helped me comfortably leap. And I had a $15,000 raise. They paid 100% of my benefits. So it was a complete upgrade and less stress. Yeah. But that was critical. It was putting myself in a position where I could devote more energy to this business that I knew I wanted to grow. And some people there were times where I considered asking them to scale back my hours so I could work part-time there and work on my business full-time. But it never happened in that manner. I went to my boss and said, okay, how can we be a little more flexible? So.
And so you talk about, balancing the two. Were you making, profitable at that time? Like, what was it like gaining those first clients, starting to make money? Like, what was those steps like?
My Fab Finance didn't really become profitable until after Black Enterprise. That's when I took on my first coaching clients. I'll say that one more time just in case you have to edit it out. My Fab Finance didn't become profitable until after Black Enterprise, and that's when I took on my first coaching clients. Completely undercharged. I was charging people $50 for like 3 sessions. Completely undercharged. Know your value. And so that was my first thing, and then I started doing paid speaking engagements, and that started generating money. As far as the blog, I don't make as much money on the blog. I don't push a lot of affiliate projects or products. I didn't really do a lot of advertising on the site. A lot of my revenue came from outside entities, from coaching, from speaking engagements, from product sales. So I would say my Fed Finance started generating profit in November 2014. Geez, that timeline is aggressive because it started generating profit. And now to say that and realize generating profit in November 2014, and by September 2015, I was making enough to do it as a full-time job and left my job.
And I think it's important for people like to see like what it's like, the process. There is a process, and like you did, you took that leap of faith, and it paid off. So I know you talked about like undervaluing yourself or underselling. So what was it like for those clients who were already your clients, and then saying, "Hey, I'm going to charge this"? Like, what was that like?
Well, I believe in integrity, so I completed my coaching with them before. Actually, before I even took on more clients, because if anybody is a coach, they know how exhausting it can be to do one-on-one coaching. And so I completed my sessions with them and kind of went back to the drawing board to figure out what I wanted to do. And that was more speaking engagements and sell more products and courses. And so I did more speaking engagements, and then I released the Super Fat Financial Planner in June of 2015. And I just made sure I have multiple revenue streams coming in for the business. So I was also freelance writing.
Wow.
That was another way I started to generate money with my Fat Finance. I started writing financial articles and content for other companies in about October 2014 too.
So you basically told us that there is no excuse for anything.
No, and build your multiple revenue streams while you're at a job so you can test them out, figure out what works, tweak them so you have the money to invest in them, because it takes money to create products. And you let your full-time job invest in that, because it's very difficult to balance that and buying what you need starting out as an entrepreneur without any revenue coming in. But before I left my 9 to 5, I had at least 3 revenue streams coming in from my Fat Finance.
Takes notes. And so why focus on millennials?
Because I am a millennial. I am a millennial, and it is authentic to me. I understand their experience. And my entire reason for starting my Fat Finance was always to talk to women who look like me about money. And I'm a millennial. So that is why I focus on millennials. I mean, it's the largest generation, population-wise, we are the largest generation. And so that's wonderful. I have a lot of clients to select from. But also, I'm happy I did that because everyone's trying to figure out how to connect with millennials. Everyone's trying to figure out how to market to millennials now. And so having that expertise and working with millennials, that has also become another revenue stream, is consulting with brands who want to reach millennials. Actually, I was just doing that today before I came here. I'm doing some work for a well-known beauty company and just consulting with them.
Kudos, Black Girl Magic.
That's one thing I do want to say. Always look for ways you can make money. I think that people discredit their income earning opportunities. And there's more than one way to make money most of the time when you look at it. If you learn to do something, people will pay you to learn how you did it. If you have a certain amount of knowledge or working with a certain demographic, people will pay you to understand how to work and target that demographic. So there's always more than one way to make money.
And also, like you spoke about, like women that look like you, specifically, that's your target market. So what does it look like? I know you talked about going to your job and saying, this is what I do. And some people, based upon, reading and things like that and experience, some people feel like, and we can talk about the money within the Black community. Like, what is it like, explaining that to someone that there is revenue, to be made in the Black community, and what has been your personal experience on that?
Oh my goodness. If anybody doesn't believe there's money to be made in the Black community, they are missing out on money. Because, for our buying power in the Black community is huge. We are making money. We make money, we pay our bills, we do what we need to do. The issue with financial management is that sometimes external forces compromise how we utilize our money and the way we allow it to support our lifestyle. And so that we make money. The clientele that I work with, millennials, most of them are college educated. Most of them have very good jobs, decent jobs. I work with people who work at popular magazines. I work with individuals who own their own business and are generating $10,000 plus a week. So I've worked with a wide range of people. And if anyone assumes that Black people don't have money, then they're not talking to the right Black people. But that's not to say that white people don't have money. There are some white people who quote unquote don't have money, but people will find a way to buy what they want to buy.
Right. I get it. So how do you go about, like getting your clients now? Like, how is that like now, managing those clients because you are busy, and let's talk about that.
Yeah, life is changing. Life is changing, and I'm learning, day by day. Even this week, I learned I couldn't be as accessible because I take on the burden and then get upset at myself if I can't respond to every email, or I get annoyed and I don't want it to delete it from my inbox. And my inbox is just off the chain now because I'm mentally zapped from all the work that I'm doing, but I really want to respond to people. And so most of my clients come from referrals. I do a lot of networking. Networking is one of the biggest client generators for me in my business, or lead generators. So I'm going to a lot of conferences, sitting on panels with people, connecting with people and their audiences, and then referrals. A lot of people will recommend me, or social media is really big for me. So I have a pretty good social media presence, and so people will find me on social media and reach out.
Talk about social media, because I love your everything. I'm like, how? Why? Who's doing this? How?
Thank you.
Talk about, the brand, how important, branding is for social media, and how did you, go into that? Like, how important is it to you?
My brand integrity is so important to me, to the point where if I'm speaking at an event or something of that nature and the flyer is out of line with my branding, I'll try to change the color tones around, or I'll post it for a short period of time. I'm big on that because I need people to recognize when it's my Fab Finance in the space. I have had people come up to me and be like, that's my Fab Finance pink. Like, I know my color code by heart, BF4098. Like, I am committed to my brand, and I create I create all of those images on social media. I'm very connected to my social media presence. Tweet for myself, post on Instagram for myself, post on Facebook by myself, because I just want to make sure that it's translating over as authentically me. And I think that has been the biggest thing about my social media and any social media account, is it is authentically that person. They're not trying to be someone that they're not. People can feel and read in sincerity and in authenticity.
So is it like a team, or do you have a team, or how?
I have a team. I have a team now. I have my assistant Janelle, who is absolutely amazing, and then I have Anna, who is my graphic designer. She is based in the Philippines, and then I just brought on a manager because one of the wonderful things is more media opportunities are being afforded to me with the show Eccentric, and I just did a commercial with an international automobile maker. And so I brought on a manager just to make sure we weren't leaving money on the table, because that's another thing as a business owner. You have to know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then find people to fill those weaknesses. And so negotiation, sometimes I'm good at it, but sometimes I'm so excited about the opportunity that I can't see beyond the fact that I'm not getting the best deal. So I brought on someone who could care less. His job is to make me as much money as possible and negotiate these deals, but in a tactful manner. So I do have a manager now too.
Right. So to get into the nitty gritty, because this is what we do at Black Tech Business. So tell me about, so you have a team, you started as a site, what are those steps like in terms, don't get all into it, but, give us a little gist of like the legal, like how do you know when it's the right time to hire? I know you talked about when you can't no longer do it, but what's it like going after that person and, making sure that they fit with your brand?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's going to be a trial and error. So you aren't always going to hire the right people. Janelle is my fourth assistant. The other one, there wasn't anything wrong with the other ones. Like, they're great too, but sometimes, other obligations picked up. Some of them had to get full-time jobs. Others had passion projects that they were more interested in pursuing than working with my Fab Finance. So with that aspect, just start, definitely do your interview and do due diligence and try to get a feel for the person and their work ethic, and have writing samples are big because everybody can't write. So I'm definitely big on getting writing samples from people. But from the blog growing beyond that, when I brought an assistant, it was because I knew that if I didn't have someone respond to emails and do certain things for me, I was going to bottleneck. And when you bottleneck, nothing is coming out of your workflow. And so when you get to that point where you realize that you need help and you can afford to pay help, you definitely should bring them on. But don't feel bad if they're not the perfect fit initially, you're still learning your business, especially in the starting phases. You don't even necessarily know what a good fit is because you don't even have a puzzle yet. You're still putting the pieces together. And so I would just say, start by hiring people. I definitely go off of energy. Janelle actually reached out to me to offer her services. She noticed a typo on my site and offered to help with something. And then I just liked her. I liked the way she responded. And it just grew from there. And I was like, hey, can I hire you? And she has a full-time job, and supports me. And so just keep your eye out for those people, too, that are champions of your brand and that push you to do better and be better.
Awesome. I know I heard you speak at the 100 Women Entrepreneurs, and one of the things that you said that really stuck out to me was you don't necessarily you knew for you it wasn't right to hire people who are interested, working on their own things because of the focus on you. So please talk about that and how important that is, because I think everyone wants to be an entrepreneur now.
Which is so funny because that's how I was able to do it. I went to a job that was comfortable with me working on other things. Mm-hmm. But when, my budget is not as expansive as my former employer. And so all my coins count. And I need to make sure that you are as committed to this brand and this business as I am. Or not as I am, because people aren't necessarily always going to be as gung-ho. You receive all the reward, you take all the risk. But I can say honestly that my current assistant, she takes pride in the work that she does. Not saying that any of my other ones had it, because they did too. But that's always something that I look for, is that them taking pride in the work that they're doing with me, and that they're not in a competing industry or space, because that was a problem. And sometimes I would have assistants that were in a competing space. It wasn't finance, but it was blogging, or it was being an infopreneur. My current assistant has no desire to be an infopreneur. She loves supporting individuals and is great in that role. So it is important to understand what their long-term goals are. If they want to be a mini you, sometimes you might just want to make that a mentorship, because you don't want to run away with contacts either and stuff like that. But it is really important to find out what their long-term goals are and why they want to work with you. And check them out, do their research. I usually I'll stalk people on social media to see how they move on social, see what they've been posting for the past couple of months, and see what they're into. Because I've definitely not hired people because I went to their social and first thing that came up, I was like, oh, no, that can't be aligned with my brand. Or, well, she's really into this. I don't know if she'd be into my fat finance because she's really into this. So it's just important to do your homework.
And that's being transparent and real with yourself. So let's talk a little bit about finance. So I know, you talk a lot about your past, and debt and things like that. So what is it like, or how can someone break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck?
It takes some sacrifice. I wish I had a magic wand, and some people ask me, like, what can I do? I'm doing everything. It's like, no, you might not be doing everything, because if you're not making enough money, then we need to get a part-time job and figure out how to bring in more money. But first thing is getting current on any outstanding bills, because there's no point of moving ahead aggressively if you have something pulling you back. So you want to make sure that you get ahead of any outstanding bills. And then I suggest that people begin to save aggressively. So make sure you have a decent amount that you're comfortable with in your savings account. I would suggest 2 to 3 months at least to get started before you start doing the next step aggressively, which is paying down debt. So make sure you build yourself a nest egg just in case any emergencies pop up. You won't have to use credit to take care of those emergencies. Or if you start to fall behind or you need to take care of any necessities, you have that money in your savings. Then you start to pay down debt aggressively. Start paying down your debt aggressively. Once you have savings in the bank and you have no debt and you're living within your means, you're good. You're breaking that cycle. But you also do need to make sure that you start finding ways to grow your money, whether that is investing in a business, investing in the market, whatever it may be. Start finding ways to grow your money.
Did you aggressively save, when you were moving on to entrepreneurship?
Yeah. What was that? Every check that I got went to my savings account.
Wow.
Yeah. My speaking engagement checks. Other ones went to funding the business, but my speaking engagement checks, they all went to my bank account.
Wow. And another thing that ties into that is increasing your credit score. Like how important is it, for people to, worry about your credit and make sure that it's okay?
credit is not the end all be all, and I think some people get so focused on their credit score, and it's like the rest of your financial life is in shambles. Like you still need to have the rest of your picture in play. And that was one of the mistakes I made. I mean, I started my journey with my focus on my credit score. It's like, I want good credit, and that's how I started my journey. But it is really important to, if you're starting a business and you're going to have to take a loan. I started an information business, so I didn't have a lot of startup costs. But if you're going to start a business that requires a lot of startup costs, you want to make sure you have good credit. Also, a lot of investors or lenders, investors, they'll look at your credit history. They want to know how you're spending your money and how responsible you are. Or if you need to go get a lease for your space, they're going to pull your credit. So it is important to make sure that you have good credit for your business, because that will ensure that you're able to grow your business and get the resources that you need even when your revenue isn't the best.
Okay. I think I'm in that stage where I'm like, oh my God, my credit needs to be this and that, and I can't. I'm always like trying to make sure I'm on it. So
yeah, you want to make sure everything else is in order.
Right. So a little bit of statistics, like studies show that 27% of African Americans owe more than $35,000 in student loan debt. Why do you think that is the case?
I think it's a few reasons. It is very rare that I meet a young African American whose parents paid for their college tuition. And those are varying factors. Some families just don't have it. Sometimes a child is the first person in their family to go to college. Some parents underestimate the cost of college. My parents, it was like, you go get a scholarship because we ain't paying for that. And I got a scholarship for the first 2 years, and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And ended up going and taking out student loan debt to go to the college and have the experience that I wanted to have. And so I think some of it is just parents aren't able to fund their child's tuition. And then a lot of people don't know about the student loan, the scholarships available to them. There just aren't enough scholarships to cover all the students of color going into college each and every year. And then also some miseducation on student loans and how to properly use them, because I do feel like some people do abuse student loans, and classes only cost, $20,000 for the semester, but they took out $35,000 in student loans to live off that $15,000. And you can work while you're in college. You definitely can work while you're in college. And so also students just misusing and abusing student loans. But I think culturally, we have to understand, I think student loans are still relatively new-ish. And I think this generation, a lot of us are feeling the pinch from it, and we will want to prepare our children better than we were prepared. So we're just in that phase where we're learning how oppressing student loans can be, whereas our parents might not have known that because some of them came from factory jobs or jobs where a high school diploma was sufficient.
So can you talk about just a little bit about, I know we talked about saving, so what would it be like for someone to save while you have student loans, but you also want to invest at the same time? So what comes first, and how should you manage that?
I would say if you have student loans and you want to save, then you need to get your student loans reduced down to the lowest payment plan possible. Especially that's easier with federal loans because they have so many different payment options, and a little more challenging with private loans, but see what you can do to get your student loan payment down to the lowest amount possible so that you can aggressively save. Then if you feel comfortable and you have a decent amount of money in your savings account, you can go ahead and start aggressively paying down your student loans. There are some people who they don't want any debt in their life, and they want my goal is to eventually pay off my student loans. But there are some people who are just like, look, I can live with these student loans and we gonna be all right. So, but if someone wants to do it, I would say get it down to the lowest payment amount possible and then start saving with that, or find ways to make money outside of your 9 to 5 and save that money that you're making outside of your 9 to 5.
So, all awesome advice. I think everyone is going to be working with you. So, just a little brief, what's it like working with you, Tonya? What's it like working with you?
Interesting. So I'm very Gemini. I am becoming more structured. I have a coaching client now so one of the things I'm doing is strategize your impact. So I've taken on coaching clients who want to build and stand out in their niche and create their first lead magnet and really just get their business systems set up. So I have a coaching client that I'm doing that with, and I'm loving it. It's very structured, but it's also honest. I am a straight shooter. I come from a line of straight shooters. Me, my mom, and sister. We just sit there and we're very honest with our stuff with each other, and so you're gonna get honesty from me, but you'll also get compassion. So I'm not honest. I'm not honest to a fault. I'm also a human and very compassionate. I'm also caring. And once you work with me, you're my like. I don't want to say you stuck with me, but we have that ongoing relationship, and I'm invested in your success. And so once the client, I always tell my client, once a client, always a client. I just actually sent an email to a client I worked with back in October just to see how she was doing, and just to check on her. So yeah, I mean, you get knowledge and someone who didn't have it all laid out for her, didn't necessarily go to business school and had to figure it out in other ways, and has done it rather successfully. So you get a different approach.
I'm excited for you, and I know you have the latest exciting thing coming up for you. So tell us about, your series with Centric. Like, how is that, and how did that come about? Like, and what's it going like?
Fab Finance with Tonya. I met with Centric. Ironically, I want to say I met with Centric back in like December of last year about it. And they found me on social, and the digital manager, the digital supervisor, producer, or the head of the department was like, "Hey, we need this content on Centric. Everybody kind of looks the same. I don't want everybody to look the same. Let's do this." And so he brought me in, and we had the conversation. And we had been working on that for months. We didn't shoot the first episode until May. So I met him in December. We didn't shoot this first episode until May. And we didn't drop the first episode until August. Right. So that just goes to show these things are a long time in the making. A similar contract agreement I had when I was working with Russell Simmons, I met the representative from there in January, and I didn't start working with them until July. So a lot of these projects, take some time. You go back and forth with contracts and schedules and everything else. But Centric has been great. I never thought that I was going to be a camera personality. Like, I was like, that's just not my style. I'm just a behind-the-scenes person. Mm-hmm. And everybody kept pushing that on me. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, to the point where I wasn't responding to emails. I didn't want to do it. But I had a moment where I was like, if this is where God wants me to go, I've been faithful in everything else. I need to be faithful and honest in this. And so that's how it is. And hopefully we'll be shooting some more episodes shortly, looking at a few different topics that we can cover. And it's been good. I really like working with the team over at Centric.
Yes, I am so happy for you. I love it. Yes. And also, what else do you have going on? Is there anything new? Also, anything else new?
We finished the Banish the Balance Challenge earlier this summer. So the Banish the Balance Challenge was a debt repayment challenge, where I helped 4,000 people pay off $210,000 worth of debt in 60 days. So that was an amazing experience, and we're continuing to grow the community. So anyone listening, you can join the community. Just go to Facebook and type in Triumph Club, and we will add you. And then I'm working on my first book, turning Banish the Balance into a book, so that anyone who might not want to take the e-course or whatever, they can have a self-guided book with more content in it. And then I am also creating a course on credit, which will drop in October. So I'm doing a course on understanding how credit works, building your credit, repairing it, and maintaining healthy credit.
Busy, but all good. We're excited because, and you're showing so many women and so many people, and, people of color especially, like, it can be done. And that's why I'm so excited, and that's why I wanted to have you here. So thank you so much. And before we go, we have some fire questions.
Okay.
So
how long should these answers be for the fire questions?
No, they can be as long as short as you want them to be. It's short.
Okay.
So one question is, what advice would you give your 23-year-old self?
My 23-year-old self. Where was I? Okay. Leave him. No. It actually probably was leave him. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Trust your gut.
All good stuff. Happy hour or brunch?
Happy hour.
Okay.
Even though I like brunch too, so I got to choose happy hour.
Okay. Black people love brunch. We love some brunch on Sunday. And which TV show you wish still aired? Let's say mine. Come on, baby.
Which TV show? Because I feel. Have you ever seen like some shows they just run on too long? You're like, oh, you killed it.
You mean the season?
Just in general, like it's just over. Like you just need to stop. Like Grey's Anatomy, I feel like needs to be done. Just stop with Grey's Anatomy. So which TV show? HBO always cuts off shows so prematurely, in my opinion. 6 Feet Under.
Okay.
It's a really good show on HBO. And then Living Single.
Oh, I love Living. I thought you would say Living Single. Why do you like Living Single?
Huh?
Why did you like Living Single?
Because it was like black women living together. They had their stuff, whatever, but it was black women living together and they all had their jobs. And Living Single was bomb. And even, another reason, because at my age, I liked it, but I didn't understand it. But now I watch Living Single, I'm like, girl. Oh, I remember when that was me and my roommates. So, yeah, Living Single.
Is that on Netflix? I might have to watch that on Netflix.
I know, in the 90s kind of world, I'm glad I got my girl.
Yes. Okay, so an ideal way to spend your day off.
Outside, about 77-degree weather, grass in my toes, husband nearby, around nearby, and the sound of water.
I see it. I envision. So, and lastly, I wish I knew how to.
Wish I knew how to sing, like for real, because you would not be able to shut me up. I wish I knew how to sing.
What's your favorite song right now?
Oh, right now? Anderson .Paak. Or Road James. I just like his entire album. It's very hard for me to choose a song off of there. But also Anderson .Paak. Carry Me. That song is just so amazing. BJ Chicago Kid, Church. Yeah.
I gotta go listen to Anderson .Paak. Oh, sounds good. And you gotta tell the people, how can they, get in contact with you? How can they stay up to date with what's going on? Like, how can we support?
So people can find me at myfab, fab as in fabulous, FAB, finance.com. They can find me on all social media channels as myfab finance. So I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. Used to be Snapchat, but not anymore. But everything as myfab finance. I also have a personal Instagram, just as my experience as a black woman entrepreneur in New York City. And that's Tonya.Rapley. But yeah, that's where they can find me at.
And I'm loving your personal Instagram, by the way. I see how you kind of like have your personal and you also have your business.
Because like I said, my business is heavily branded. My business Instagram. And there's certain things that I wanted to post that I didn't feel like were applicable, but also very much part of me that I wanted to share, like what I'm reading and different things like that. So I created a separate one because I also understand that my Fab Finance might not always be Tonya, and I want to be establishing a presence on the web as the person I am because my business is not me. And that's one thing I've learned to do over the past couple of years is realize that my business is not me. It does not define me, and I'm a separate person outside of it.
Loving it. So, Tonya, I thank you so much. I was telling her earlier that she is the first person to join us on Black to Business Party.
Kick off. I should have bought you a bottle.
We can do this later. We'll do this later.
At brunch.
Okay. Brunch or happy hour. But I thank you so much, and you've been an inspiration to me. I've been following you for a while, so in the connection we connected through a mutual friend personally. Shout out to Tim Lampkin.
Yeah, hey Tim.
We love Tim. So you know where you can find Tonya, and check out blacktobusiness.com, all things Black to Business, and until next time.